Well, we are back from our very first ever Seabourn cruise.
Yes, and today we are going to cover our pros and cons of sailing with Seabourn and whether or not we'll sail with them ever again.
We are Jill and Jerry, the Cruising Canucks, and we have been on over 50 cruises, and we thought it was high time we tried Seabourn Cruise.
Yes, we did a 10-day repositioning cruise from Montreal, Quebec, Canada, all the way down to Miami, and we were lucky enough to find 3 different storms on the way down. So
yes, the weather gods were not so with us on this trip.
yeah, we had several stops in Canada, stopped it overnight actually in Manhattan, and then we made it to Miami, and so we're going to try to pull the weather piece out because that definitely hampered our ability to cruise, probably truly how you could experience a cruise like this on better weather.
That's true.
But we did learn some new things about Seabourn that we wanted to share with you, and we both made our independent pros and cons list. We have not compared notes.
No, we haven't.
I hear rumors that some people have more pros than cons.
For sure.
I have equal number.
Oh, wow.
Fair.
I do not.
Yeah, so let's get right down to it, and we're going to just go into it, and we'll talk about all the things that really impressed us and some of the things that we kind of left scratching our heads. And I guess we should preface this by saying that we paid more money for this cruise than we ever paid for a cruise.
Exactly.
But that's expected with Seabourn. And so we're going to compare some of these things. We're going to go back and we're going to kind of say, okay, if we pay for a similar experience on a different cruise line, what would the price difference be? Because it's actually not as much as I thought, but we'll get into that in just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, well, do you want to go with your first pro?
Yeah, so my first pro is specifically the size of the ship, and I'm talking capacity of fellow passengers and all of that sort of thing. So the cruise ship that we were on had the capacity of 400 people or 450 people, but we were actually cruising with 400 people, we were told, on board. And that was a huge pro for me, and I wasn't sure going into it whether it would be. I thought maybe that small of a ship, it would get to the point where it would be too small. I know we've had great cruises on like Volendam where it was just over 1,000 people, but I was wondering about 450 people if that would be too much. It ended up being a great pro for me. I loved the size of the ship, and I loved the amount of people that were on board with us. It never felt crowded, with the exception of maybe going to one venue that we'll talk about later.
Yeah, and somebody may be thinking that, okay, with that few people, maybe running into the same people or all the same people all the time, because you find your groove on a cruise ship and you seem to always bump into similar people doing similar things at different times of day. Mm-hmm. And that was definitely still the case on this cruise, but it really wasn't much different than any other cruise where you'd see, we always go for pre-dinner drink and dance after dinner, and other people that were like-minded would do the same thing. So it really wasn't much different considering there was much fewer people, other than it meant less lineups and that type of thing.
For sure. So was that a pro on your list also?
I'm not sure if I had that as a pro. Believe it or not, as size of ship, that was kind of a given going in for me. But it definitely was a pro because I think small ships are where it's at to begin with. So it's a pro.
For me, it was a question mark whether I would like that size, and it definitely turned into a pro for me.
My first pro is related to the ship design, and that was the cabin, the suite, actually, our veranda suite that we had. That all the rooms are suites, majority are veranda suites with just a couple ocean view suites. But it was gorgeous. It was a beautiful room, a walk-in closet, a bathtub as well as a shower. It
marble
counters
everywhere in the bathroom, from the shower to the tub, walls to the sinks. Absolutely high-end quality. Yeah,
it had a sofa big enough that when I felt seasick middle of the night, I could go sleep on the sofa if I was really feeling upset. And it had a bigger than normal balcony with stools there with loungers and a full-size table. It also had kind of a small dining room table.
And so much storage, for sure. We had cupboards that were empty.
Yeah, we never have.
And that's saying something because we don't travel light. We usually travel with 4 suitcases when we go on a trip, which we did on this one. We had a lot of stuff just because we were going to be in different weather climates. But yeah, the cabin, I agree, it was the second one on my list. It was definitely a highlight for us. In saying that, you need to know how we travel, and if this is the first time tuning in, we love to cruise as often as we can, so we often try to get the cheapest cabin we can. So we've done a majority of interior cabins. We've done quite a few balconies, but this is our first time ever having a suite, and I'm telling you, anytime we're in a suite situation from now on, it will definitely be compared to this, because it was a beautiful setup and spacious and gorgeous.
Yeah, all the amenities were top-notch amenities. You kind of wanted for nothing. There was a dry bar that was stocked with alcohol of your choosing. That was a nice perk as well. They would draw you a bath, as they did for Mrs. Canuck one night. So it was definitely, the cabin was definitely a highlight. I remember saying that about Virgin Cruises, that the highlight for me was the cabin, and this ship felt the same way, that the cabin was a place that you could go to and hang out. It wasn't just a place to sleep and change and shower like some ships there.
Right.
This was definitely your own little oasis on the ship.
And so we spent time, partly due to weather, we spent more time in our cabin than we normally would on a cruise ship, but you didn't feel like you were, letting go of your vacation, because you're in this gorgeous cabin that even had like books in it, in the cabin, that you, like reference books and like big coffee table books is the word I'm trying to get out. But also all kinds of movies on demand was on the TV. So the cabin was set up to be used as much as you'd like.
I don't think any of those things are a shock to anybody, because that's kind of an expectation for Seabourn. I think those first two things we've said. So let's see if we can shock anybody with any cons. So what do you have as your first con?
My first con was my first impression on Embarkation Day. I will say that I expected, we were going on our very first luxury cruise line. I expect it to be
ultra luxury.
That's
how they describe themselves.
I expect it to be greeted a little bit more at the port, with a little bit more celebration or style or class, something, like we've cruised on MSC, and I've seen people in yacht clubs going down the red carpet and having their butlers meeting them there with the white gloves and champagne before they even get on the ship. I guess I sort of envisioned that, and I didn't get any of that. We were brought into this cold tent-like room that had no heat in it, and we were told to sit down on these hard metal chairs that were freezing. You literally sat down and froze your bottom. So it was very underwhelming getting the intake of getting on the ship, and that sort of followed through to actually stepping foot on the ship. So once we were finally allowed to leave that cold room and board the ship, we were brought directly into the main theater, where we then got our signed in and checked in for the cruise. And that's where you checked in for the cruise, was right there, and got your sail and sign card and all that sort of information done. But then we were proceeded to be told that we had to sit down in the corner of the theater and wait until we were allowed to leave. And so it was a very underwhelming first impression.
Yeah, I would agree. And just for some context, the cruise terminal that we were going out of, the main one that I think people go to Montreal, was being used by another ship. So I think we were in a secondary one, which is like this big industrial steel building with no heat inside, is what it was. So that was kind of our first impressions. Not the fault of Seabourn, I don't think. I'm not sure how that's handled between the cruise lines and the terminals of the cities that they're in, but then they got us on board, and yeah, it was very underwhelming. Like, I thought I was going to be like just amazed. I half expected someone to like carry me onto the ship, but that definitely didn't happen. Even when we were sitting in the theater waiting, it was kind of this weird feeling of like, okay, you're not allowed to go anywhere. Like, have you ever gone on a cruise ship and not thought, let's go to the buffet and have something to eat right away, or let's walk around the ship and enjoy and see what we're going to be doing for the next 7 to 10 days?
Yeah.
We didn't even have a chance to do that. We were kind of kept in this small area, which was the weirdest embarkation ever for me.
Yeah, we were brought on the ship and had to sit in the corner of the theater for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, somewhere around that time. And then they said, cabins are ready, so we'll allow you to go and explore the ship. And so, yeah, that was a very underwhelming first impression, and I think it could have been done up. I mean, regardless, they didn't get to choose the building that was at, but it could have been done up a little bit better with, snacks or canapes or hot chocolate there, warm blankets, because the ship was full of warm blankets. They should have brought some down to us. Yeah, it could have been better.
Yeah, for sure. It was very underwhelming, considering we were so excited to we're going to be just so pampered. We were beside ourselves thinking, what are they going to do that's so special? And that was like, oh my gosh. Yeah. All of our other cruises were much more exciting getting on than this
I was just going to say, we've had better embarkations with the cheapest cruises we've gone on than we did with this one. And so I guess that was sticking in my head as we got on.
Yeah, and you stole my first con.
Oh, did I?
My first con was Embarkation, so we were on the same.
There you go. Same page there.
Not too often we're in agreement. The first 3 we've been on agreement.
Wow.
So I can go to my second con.
Okay.
And that was that the cabin was not stocked or kind of set up perfect, I guess is what the word I'm looking for.
I forgot about that. You're right.
That we had, first of all, the alcohol wasn't in the cabin. Now, they did tell us that they didn't have any reference for us choosing our alcohol before the cruise. We had done all the check-in stuff that we thought we needed to do. We never saw an option to choose our alcohol before we got on the ship.
Yeah, so I'm not, excuse me, I'm not sure if that was my mistake or their mistake, but I never saw anywhere where we were to request it. It was under my impression, and again, probably I had the wrong impression, that the butler would meet us at our room and would take our drink order then.
Yeah, and the other thing that was a little bit underwhelming is glasses in the room. That, you know, if you're for brushing your teeth, you had a couple clear glasses in the washroom. It seems that the people that were there before us, their glasses were still there, and they hadn't replaced those with new ones. So that was a little bit gross to have these kind of gooey toothpaste glasses in there.
Yes.
So again, little things like that, and a lot of cruise lines, a lot of different things happen. I know turnover day is really hectic for the cruise, so it's hard to blame them for much. But again, we went into this with the idea of this is going to be the best service we've ever had on a cruise ship.
Well, and we sort of gave them lenience because it was turn down day, and I said to Jerry, like, let's not worry about it. Obviously, we don't need the glasses to brush our teeth. But they were still there the next day. So they had cleaned up our rooms twice, and they were still there. So then I had to sort of I wrote a little note and asked if they could be replaced.
Yeah, so yeah, that was kind of odd. The rest of the room was fine. Everything was cleaned. Everything was done up, except for those two little glitches. And again, we were kind of looking for perfection, and maybe our standards were too high.
I think so.
It's hard to say, but and maybe comment in below. I'm curious to know if you've been on Seabourn, was that similar to your experience getting on a ship? Because that seems so unusual. Maybe it was just this cruise and this itinerary.
It could be.
We're not sure.
Yeah.
But let's go back to a pro. What's your next pro?
My next pro was the all-inclusiveness of the cruise. So you pay one fare. Yes, it's a higher fare than most of the major cruise lines that we cruise with. But you pay one fare, and that's it. You're done. You don't have to worry about putting on a drink package. You don't have to worry about paying tips. You don't have to worry about paying for internet. You don't even have to worry about paying for specialty dining. There's a specialty dining restaurant on board that is included. You make the reservations when you get in there. So I really loved the all-inclusiveness of it, and the fact that because it was all-inclusive, whenever a waitress came up to take a drink order, you didn't have to give them your card. I wasn't digging in my purse the whole week to get the card out. I didn't give it to anybody. The only time I used my card was to get on and off the ship and in and out of my cabin. Otherwise, the card just stayed in my pocket or purse or whatever. And I loved that I wasn't always having to dig out a card or get a medallion tapped in order to order a drink. So the all-inclusive package of it, and of course there was no limits to anything, all high-end drinks across the board. So I loved that factor.
Yeah, no, I agree. That was really, really well done. I didn't think of it that way, but we've been on all-inclusive cruises before, as far as like Montreal as an example. But you still had to pull your card all the time because they had different levels of drink packages that you were in your all-inclusive situation.
Yeah.
This didn't feel like that. It's like everybody was just there getting whatever they wanted, and there was nobody having to worry about what tier you're on. There was the class structure didn't exist. Everybody was kind of on the same page, right?
Yeah, it was seamless.
Yeah, no. My next pro was, I'm probably going to steal one of yours here for sure, but my next pro was dinner was very good, and the service was really good too. That was the actual wording of my notes.
That was your pro, was the dining room food?
Yeah, the dining room food I thought was really well. And I do have a con about the dining room, but I'll cover that in one of my cons. But I think the quality of the food, the service for the food, the temperature of the food, everything was hot. Their soups were hot. Your meal just felt like it was freshly made. The flavors were good. I really thought everything. I didn't have anything that I said, oh, they should have cooked this differently. I never ever once thought that at all. And I can be a pretty picky eater. So for me to say that the dining room was pretty well flawless was is unusual for me to say.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. Food is definitely on a plus for my list. I thoroughly enjoyed the food. More so, I enjoyed the dining experience. And when I say that, I talk about our head waiter that we had, Damien, and he was phenomenal. And he made the dining experience an experience every night. Yeah. You went to the table, it was laid out perfectly with real silver. I mean, you really felt pampered being there. Real silverware. They had the right pieces of equipment for you for everything you use and fixed it all around. But also, I felt like the staff not only Damien, but Jonathan, his helper, were very versed in the menu and knew everything about the menu, not only the food, but also the wine menu. And so they have suggested wines every night, and they can give you a description of those wines. And if it's not sort of the type of wine that you would like, they'll offer you an alternative one. And so the knowledge that I gained from both Damien and Jonathan when reading the menu made the experience even better, because I was able to sort of go out on a limb and order foods that I would never have ordered on the recommendation of Damien, and try wines that I normally would stay away because I think, oh, I don't like that type of wine. But when they explained it, I thought, oh, it's worth a try. And they would let you do that. They'd give you like a little sample if you just wanted to try while bringing your favorite wine at the same time. So I thoroughly enjoyed everything to do with the dining room. And
not just dinner time. I did have dinner specifically in my notes, but really we did lunch there, we did breakfast there. You can do all 3 meals there every day if you really want to. Yes. It's always an option. Mm-hmm. And I guess the only slip I saw was we were there at breakfast one day, and it was early in the cruise. I don't know if they were still trying to get their legs under, or if there was new staff and training going on, but we did see one situation where actually another couple were so tired of waiting to be served that they got up and they left the dining room, and they made a quick complaint and they left. And that was the only faux pas that I think I saw the entire week in the dining room.
And it was slow that day, whereas the rest of the week when we went, it wasn't. So it was a one-off, I think.
Yeah. So what is your next? I think you're on your next con now.
My next con is sort of staying on the same theme of food. It is the size of the buffet. Absolutely enjoyed the food that they had on the buffet. Loved the service. You could sit at a table and they will go get you stuff if you'd like, or you can go and serve yourself during the lunch and breakfast, not dinner. But you can do either style. I loved that. The biggest issue was that was the only place I saw crowds the whole week. There was multiple times that we went there at breakfast and we couldn't find a seat, and so we would end up going to the dining room to have breakfast just because there was no seating in the buffet restaurant. So that's something to know about, especially when our ship wasn't at full capacity too, is, somebody did warn us before we went on the cruise to order breakfast into your cabin every day because it's crazy busy at the buffet for breakfast especially. But we also ran into it at lunch a couple of times too, where we couldn't find a table.
Well, so far no luck at the buffet. Every single table is full. Nobody's leaving, so we can't even get a seat to eat. So this buffet is always very busy despite the small ship. So.
It's not big enough.
It's not big enough even for 450 people.
So the size of the buffet is definitely a little bit of a miss. That they need more tables, they need more space, and I don't know how they fix that. I don't think they can. But in saying that, they had a lot of tables outside, and if you're in the Caribbean cruising, that probably would alleviate the problem. But because we were on a cold weather cruise, it became a huge challenge.
Have you been sneaking peeks at my list?
No, I haven't. Do you have that?
Because that was exactly my next con.
Oh, well, there you go.
I'll add a little more bravado to that in the sense that, yes, for sure, I felt it was too small. Even for a ship for 450 people, it was too small. And yes, there was spillover seating that could have been outside. I believe if I was on a contemporary cruise ship that we've sailed on before, that's typically doing Caribbean runs most of the time with a few other things thrown in, I get that. You can plan the idea that people can eat outside. This is a ship that goes all around the world, quite literally.
Yeah.
And they're probably always in cooler climate. Not always, but at least half the time, I would have to guess.
Yeah.
So the fact that eating outside is not always an option, I think that if you're on ultra-luxury cruise, the buffet should have capacity for every single person on the ship. That's kind of my feeling. That wasn't the case. And there was one day I turned and I said, I guess we'll go somewhere else, because we literally couldn't get a seat. I'm not sure we've ever had that feeling on a ship. We've had to kind of hunt around for seating and be creative, but there was one day it was like really close. We did find a seat and we ended up staying, but it was really busy all the time. So
it really was.
Yeah. But the food was good. There's lots of different options there. So, but it was just the seating was the issue of the buffet. So I guess you stole my con. I have to go to my next con. And that was kind of tied into the food and beverage department as well. It was like they didn't realize that they were in cool climate. That goes back to this issue, because there was a couple times that only bars that were open on the ship were outside. So it was like 5 or 6 degrees. It was like maybe rainy or fog or just miserable out there. It wasn't just like cool. At
5 p.m., because we like to go for a happy hour drink at 5 p.m. and dinner at 6. And it was 5 p.m. the only bar open was outdoors.
Outside.
And it was freezing.
Yeah,
It was cold. Nobody's going out there.
Another bar open in the ship, like not a single one. My description of ultra luxury is, maybe I'm shooting too high, is that I should be able to go to any venue anywhere on the ship and get service. I really do feel that that's not a big ask. Especially, there's not a lot of venues, so I should be able to go to the club, for example, which is kind of their nightclub, and get a drink if I want at 5 o'clock before dinner.
Yeah.
I should be able to even go to the observation lounge and get a drink at any time of day, not just during their hours, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know whether my expectations, again, are way too high, but I think on a small ship like that, that's not a big ask to make sure you can get whatever you want wherever you are in the ship.
Now, you could get it if you ordered room service. They will bring it. But, I mean, we ended up, thankfully, that we did come with a stocked bar, because there was a few days at 5 o'clock that we just had happy hour by ourselves in our cabin, because we did have alcohol there, and we knew that there weren't any bars open. So, yeah, it was kind of a bit of a miss, because you would think they knew they were cruising out of Canada in November. It's going to be cold.
Yeah.
Instead of keeping the pool deck bar open till 7 o'clock at night, maybe close that one down and open one inside. Seemed like common sense to us.
They did it one day. One day we had waves so big and the weather was so awful that they announced they were shutting down the outside bar and opening one inside. It only happened one day, but we had multiple days of terrible, like over half the cruise was cold or windy.
So they did do it one day. Yeah. So they should have done it like 8 days though.
Especially on sail away day, like when you know it was going to be cold in Montreal that day. Again, outside was the only place to get a drink on sail away day, which is weird.
Yeah.
What's your next pro?
Well, my next pro, I'm going to sort of stay in the food and beverage area and talk about room service. The best room service we've ever had at sea.
For sure.
Hands down. The breakfast menu that they give you that you can put on your door is the most comprehensive. It's almost like reading a novel. There's so many options.
You almost need a help guide to go
with. They will give you everything from hot foods to cold foods to, sandwich type continental breakfast stuff, but the list was vast, and we thoroughly enjoyed the room service breakfast. And when they come into your cabin, they come with a white linen tablecloth, and they ask if they can set the table, and they take 2 or 3 minutes and they set the table up as fancy as if you're in the main dining room with all the real silver in the correct places and your food laid out in front of you. Beautiful. But the best part, I think, in the room service thing for me was when we were done our breakfast, around a half an hour, 45 minutes later, there was a ring on our doorbell. We have a doorbell in your cabin, which is kind of nice. And it was the same waiter coming to see if our breakfast was to our liking, and if we were all done, could he clean it all up and take it out of our cabin. How beautiful. So the food, the leftover plates and the empty containers and the coffee mugs and all of that is all scooped up and taken away in a moment's notice. So I've never experienced room service that great before, and it was a huge plus for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, not having to walk down the hall and see people's room service orders sitting out on the floor in the hallways. That didn't exist, Yeah. It's kind of awkward though, being in your cabin and somebody's like setting a dining room table and you're kind of sitting there like hum-da-dum, waiting for it's kind of weird because you're wanting to eat the food.
Yeah, for me, I want to help them set the table. Yeah. That was hard for me. I kind of enjoy setting the table. It's kind of nice when you're hosting a party or Christmas or something, and you can get out all your fancy stuff. And I kind of wanted to sit there and help them and take lessons and maybe ask a few questions. But yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. A super luxury item.
And one thing I don't think you covered it. They did that for the dining room table in your cabin, but they would also do it for the table on the balcony. So we did that one day breakfast on the balcony, and they set it the same way as if they'd set it inside.
Yes.
Yep. So that was definitely room service was out of this world. With how beautiful the room was and how good the room service was, you could probably stay in your room the whole 10 days and order all 3 meals.
You could be a true introvert and never leave your cabin and be quite fine. You really could.
Yep. My next pro was, it looks like I was keeping it simple in my notes here, although all I put down was the club band was great.
Ooh, there you go.
And they were. There was a couple of different main bands that played in what was called the club, which is like their lounge at the aft of the ship.
Yes.
And the one band that was playing there was a trio, I believe.
Yes.
And they were kind of uninspired. They kind of sat there and played their instruments. But the music they played was so... such a variety of different genres, and it was done so well. The quality was fantastic. Yeah. And after a few songs, they kind of got into it now and then. You could feel them pick up the energy for their favorite songs. But all in all, it was. And there was another band that played as well, usually later in the night. But and also special events that they held in this club. And yeah, the music I found was I can be picky about my music because I feel that there's this kind of cliche rotating list of music you hear on other ships over and over, all the same songs. This was a wide variety of music all the way from way back and heck, pre-rock days for some songs all the way to modern music.
Well, and we listened to this particular band every single day of the cruise, at least once, sometimes twice a night. And what we said to each other near the end of the cruise was, have we heard them repeat a song yet, this whole cruise?
Wow.
So the fact that they could entertain for 10 nights, multiple sets, and maybe, I think there might have been one song that we were able to name that they had done twice, is pretty phenomenal. Because we've been on some cruises where by day 2, you hear the same person and they're doing the same set that they did on day 1. So that didn't happen, so that was wonderful. You're right, that's a good pro.
What's your next con?
I'm kind of out with sort of a couple possibilities.
Well, let me help you out here. This was a me thing I found out because there was not agreement on this one actually, but I found the bed unusually hard and lumpy.
Oh, yeah, you did. Yeah.
I was like feel like I was like a top sheet that had been washed incorrectly and came back lumpy out of the washing machine. That's how it kind of felt to me.
The mattress pad. I wonder, they had a mattress pad on the bed. I'm wondering, on my side it was perfectly smooth and soft and comfy. On your side, maybe there was some lumps in there that needed to be worked out. I never went to his side of the bed to try to figure it out, but he did complain about it a few times through the cruise. But I found the bed was very comfy.
Yeah, it was no princess bed, which I love the princess bed. That's all I got to say.
And I would have thought that it was maybe like a Holland America bed, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was better than a Virgin or a Morella bed.
Yeah, for sure,
But yeah, it was somewhere in there. What are your pros then before I get into my cons then?
Okay. Let's see. Well, let's continue with entertainment. And I have to say, one of my biggest fears going into this cruise was, what will the production shows, or will there be production shows, and what does that look like? I thought, we're going into a smaller ship where it doesn't even have like a real theater. It has what they called a grand saloon, which is kind of like a Vista lounge on, that you'll see on other ships. But the production crew, the Seabourn 6 was the name of the production cast, and they were phenomenal. They blew my mind away. There was 4 main singers. Every single one of them outsung the other one. Like, it was beautiful music, great production, lovely costumes. They kept me entertained, and they performed more shows than I had anticipated that they would. So for me, that was a huge sort of bonus, because I was kind of prepared that the lounge shows or the nightly shows would be underwhelming, and they weren't. They were overwhelming. Standing ovations every single time.
Free at last, today took your life. They could not take your pride.
I'd have to agree. My impression going in, I was fully mentally prepared to go to Seabourn Cruise and watch the cruise director go in and sing a couple songs in the theater, and that would be our show.
Right.
So what we got was so far beyond that. It was incredible. They exceeded expectations. They did everything from music in their shows, from the Beach Boys to U2, and everything they did was phenomenal. I think one song, one night particularly, you had said that it brought me to tears. It was that emotional. And a nice touch too is the cast after each show. They were standing at the back, and it wasn't just kind of waving and people walked by. They were having conversations, hugging people. It was you truly felt like you're part of Seabourn talks a lot about the Seabourn family, right? And it kind of had that feel to it.
It did feel that way. It was definitely more intimate than what you would get on a larger cruise ship, the whole relations with the staff. Yeah.
As a little side note too, one of the interesting things I thought is that a lot of the cast members and even some of the other crew members, and included the captain, would be seated at tables in the dining room, which was really interesting. Not by themselves, but with other passengers. A lot of times, I think solo passengers.
Sometimes with solo passengers. I think sometimes maybe with people that were high up with Seabourn loyalty points or whatever. But they definitely had tables every night that was reserved, and they had name cards with them, and staff joined passengers. So that was really a nice touch.
Yeah,
too.
How's that for the Love Boat vibe coming back when the captain's sitting there eating in the dining room? I think that's the first time I've seen that. I think it's just pretty amazing. Yeah. My next pro was, let me see here, was the included Wi-Fi was good, but it also included texting. I'm not sure how that happened, or whether it was my phone thing just was freaking out, but
I have no idea.
Usually I can't text for sure. You need a cellular signal to text, but you could do like iMessaging and emails and stuff on the ship's Wi-Fi. My phone worked almost as if I was at land, which was really, really strange for me.
And so in another month from now, we're going to get a $500 bill, and we'll understand why that happened.
But that's just kind of a little one. I'll put that as a little one.
But the Wi-Fi was good. We had no issues.
no
I was
issues.
able to post throughout the cruise. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe as kind of a middle break between all this, we touched on the idea that we paid more than ever. We did do a little bit of a cost comparison. So I looked at, the smallest Princess ship was my comparison, like the Island and the Coral Princess on a 10-day cruise. Similar, this is a 10-day cruise. I kind of looked at like the reserve suite level of Princess and also kind of the plus premium package in that range.
Right.
And from what I can tell, for a cruise this length and that type of cabin, it would not be unusual to pay around $8,000-9,000. Sometimes you get a little bit less. So when I priced this cruise out for us, for our cabin, in the couple months leading up to the cruise, it was in around $10,000 to $11,000 was the cost of this cabin. So we're talking, $10,000 or $11,000 versus $8,000 or $9,000.
$9,000.
So you're talking about a $2,000 or $3,000 difference between a similar room. I know there's different perks and different things.
Right.
As close as you can get between like a Princess and going
Trying
up.
to compare apples to apples as close as you
So
can
hopefully
from the two.
that gives you an idea of the price difference. So we're not talking, like when I first went on it, I said to people that we paid double what we've paid for our most other expensive cruise. That's what that's doing, like interiors or no drink packages and everything else. So, if we compare apples to apples, it wasn't double. It was a couple thousand more.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so we'll get back to, you must have more pros if you're out of cons.
I do have more pros. One of my pros is the laundry room. There are 2 laundry rooms on board for 400 people, and I thought that might be a little underwhelming when I found out that there was only 2. But they were 2 laundry rooms, and they're very well stocked, and I ended up using them a few times. First of all, I used them to steam my dresses because they had a professional steamer in that room, a professional steam machine. So that worked. Yeah, I wish they had someone to steam them for me.
I thought you meant a person, a professional steamer.
The machine. Anyways, that worked out lovely. 2 ironing boards, washer and dryer. All of it is included. You don't have to worry about putting coins in or tapping on your card or anything. Soap was there provided for you, so you could do laundry when you need it, which we need it at one point because Mr. Canuck got us a drink spilt all over him by a gentleman by accident in one of the lounges one night.
Even happens on fancy cruises.
Yeah. Anyways, so having the laundry room again, very convenient and very nice, and it worked really well.
There you go. I don't have anything to say about laundry. Other than it got my clothes clean.
Magically, it happens for him.
We didn't have to pay for it. My next one is a little one, but the little touch is bar snacks are included. We didn't know right off the bat, and then we started seeing some. We thought, there is some available, and then I'm not supposed to have peanuts, so we were like, do you have anything other than peanuts? And they brought out bowls of chips. So I felt like I was sitting at home on the couch watching Survivor. I had a bowl of chips, I had a drink. It was super comfy and really
Yeah.
yeah. So that was a little touch that I thought was one of my pros.
There you go.
I guess I get to have the next one because you don't have any more cons.
No.
I'll jump to a con here to keep us balanced, and my next one would be that this is a little one again. These are all little ones towards the end, but the shower was not adjustable and was lopsided. So the shower head was fixed.
So you shower like this.
And it was off to the side. And so like a lot of my left side got really clean. A lot of my right side, the back got clean. But I couldn't figure out how to get this part wet. So it was really weird. I kept thinking, what if someone's like taller? Or I don't know. It was strange for me that there was good water pressure, everything else. It was a nice glassed-in shower.
I wonder if it was just our shower.
I don't know. It was weird. It was just a little.
cockeyed.
It was offset or just a bit. So that was.
You're a little off-center. So.
There we go. So that was an odd con, a deal breaker, but that was interesting. What's your next pro?
My next pro is tea time. I'm all about the food. So I love a nice tea time. And I think Seabourn does it really well. They host their tea time in their observation lounge and bar, which is right at the very front, high up on the ship, deck 10, I believe, forward. And they take these little cocktail tables. They have white linen that they put over every single table in the whole venue. They set it up with all your, cups and saucers and everything you need. And then there's a menu there. And you have a menu of probably around 10 to 12 different types of teas that you can order from. It's loose leaf teas. Put in the little tea balls.
Metal thing?
Metals that they put into your teapot and bring it for you. So what happens is the waitress comes along and asks you what type of tea you would like. She goes and prepares the tea freshly for you. And at the same time, waiters are coming around with their tiered of of deliciousness, which is the, your cakes and your desserts and your
Sweets and your
sandwiches.
savories, yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
But there's a menu to that, and it changes every time you're there. So you're not getting the same food, same time offerings at every tea time. Scones are there every day, just to be warned. Thankfully, they're tiny though, very tiny. But you can ask for more. But everything changes, and I loved the fact that there was a menu and it was done up elegantly. And once tea time starts, the pianist comes and plays piano music throughout the whole time.
My favorite thing about tea time was they had these little timers, which were these little hourglasses with little sand going through them of different colors. So you knew how long your tea was. You could take it out at 2 minutes or 4 minutes or 6 minutes, depending on how well done you want your tea, how steeped you want it. And that was my favorite part, was playing with that. And then my least favorite part of tea time was the fact it was at 4 o'clock instead of 3 o'clock. So it kind of threw me off because that was kind of late for me because dinner's coming up shortly thereafter.
It's true. We would prefer at 3 o'clock ourselves,
but yeah,
personally.
tea time was definitely really good.
Nice.
My next pro was the conversation talks, the Seabourn conversations.
Oh, that's a good one.
They had 3 experts on board, and they don't just have people that are kind of know a little bit about something. These are like people that are like a bit at the pinnacle of their career. We had like a crown prosecutor for the federal government of Canada there.
That's right.
There was a retired Coast Guard expert that was there. There was another world relations, I think he was a correspondent from England that was there. Like these are like pretty high profile people talking, and they would give multiple tops throughout the whole thing. I think there was on C days there was 3. One of them, each one did one talk every C day, and then they would record these, and they were available on your TV if you missed a talk. And they were riveting. We went to a few of them. And it was like wow, like I got to the point where I made time to get to them because they were so good. So yeah,
that was a really nice feature. We really enjoyed that.
Yeah, really educational, and really they have speakers that are really captivating. So yeah. So that was my other pro. Guess I can jump to a con. And then that was that I felt that as much as the food was really good in the MDR, I felt the menu was a little uninspired. It was always just all your types of meat, every type of meat you can imagine, and always a side with it. But it was like there was never, for me, like something that's a little more ethnic, East Indian or some Orient.
It wasn't as exotic as you like
there wasn't like
some cruises.
No Mediterranean dish. There was no cultural type of dishes. It was just pretty well straightforward meat and potatoes. There was some pasta and veggie dishes as well at the bottom every day. But they did do theme stuff up in the buffet. So I guess
they would have an Indian dinner at the buffet, which is sit-down service up there in the evening, and different themes throughout the cruise. So we could have gone to those. Problem with that is, there was always ones where we would see them because they give you, this is a nice touch they do too, is they give you the menu of all the restaurants for the next day in your cabin each night, so you could check out what the theme was at the buffet and decide whether you want to go there to the main dining room. The problem with it for us personally is that we diverse in so much food that we can't agree on what type of theme we would want. So for instance, Jerry would have loved to go for the Indian restaurant, but I wouldn't have eaten anything there. So it was a challenge for us to do that. But if you're, we heard throughout the cruise from other passengers that went to the themed dinners how good they were in the buffet.
What's your next pro?
My next pro is space. It's just, I found like the ship had lots of open space. You were never crowded. Every venue we went to, with the exception of the buffet, there was lots of space. We started trying to get to the theater 30 minutes early, or to the lounge for the live music 30 minutes early, because that's what we're sort of programmed to do on all the other cruises that we've been on. Not necessary. On a Seabourn cruise, you can walk in 2 or 3 minutes before something starts. You're going to find a seat. It's never standing room only for any of the entertainment or evening stuff. At least it wasn't on our cruise.
Yep, I agree. You stole a few of my other ones that are coming up for my pros. You stole room service. You stole the production shows. Another pro that I had, you stole tons of space, was the convenience of this space they called the Square, the Seabourn Square. It was really nice. You go in there, it was kind of half library, half guest services, half cafe, half future
halves
cruise.
do you have?
Yeah, there was a lot of halves to this. Maybe they were quarters.
Maybe they were quarters.
They even had a paper map that had a ship magnet on there that you could see where the ship was going. I had to sometimes update it, just so you know, Seabourn. But it was fantastic. So I really liked that space. It was really well used because it was usually busy during the daytime, and you could go there and grab a cookie or a pastry or a coffee or a hot chocolate and sit down, relax, read a book. It was
tiny sandwiches.
It was interesting because guest services wasn't your typical guest services. It wasn't like this area that you stood up by this counter and waited for service. You went and you sat down like you're going to, like in the old days of booking a cruise, where you sat down at Sears and chose out of a catalog. It was kind of a sit down thing. It wasn't really so it was very quaint and it was really well done.
Nice.
And I guess negatives, and you have no more cons left. And
No.
my screen just timed out. Let me see here. I'm running out. I think I only have one left, and it's kind of a funny one, more so for you than me. So I'm surprised you didn't have as a con. Was the inconsistency of the drinks.
Oh,
From venue to
that's true.
venue, you had a tough time finding a consistent Cosmo, for example.
Very true. Yeah, you could. I had to learn quickly what drink I could order at what bar I was at, because definitely they don't share the same recipe when making a drink. I had a delicious Cosmo in one bar and the most disgusting one in the next bar that I couldn't drink. So yeah, I did find that. And it wasn't just with Cosmos, it was with a few others. We had margaritas at one bar. They were delicious. We went to another one, and Jerry and I had to leave the margaritas behind because they didn't taste like a margarita. So yeah, the consistency on their cocktail menu was kind of funny in that it seemed like their bartenders all needed to get together and agree on what recipe they were all going to use. So yeah, I would say the consistency with the drinks were a challenge.
And I am all out of pros and cons, so I guess if you have any more pros?
I kind of have one little one that I
Okay.
wanted to mention, and I actually have the title of my last pro is Little Touches. And this is what I think Seabourn did well, and I think this is probably why people are loyal to them and just love it. It's the little touches that they have. So an example is the little touches when we arrived and we finally did meet our cabin steward. They came in with a little tray with designer specialty soaps as a little gift to you, along with a glass of Prosecco and some canapes. That was a nice little touch that happened on board. Then as you're disembarking and you're filling out all the paperwork for that, they give you these beautiful leather Seabourn, or not, fake leather perhaps, Seabourn tags for you to bring home and keep as a keepsake. The real silver in the dining room, nice sort of little upper end touch. Of course, we didn't really talk about it throughout our video here, but there's caviar on offer frequently throughout the cruise ship. A little extra something special, right? The other one was the robes and the slippers provided in the cabin, a little extra touch. It was definitely the softest robe I've ever put on my body before. The slippers, what I didn't notice when I first opened the package to do it, is they had two packages of slippers in our cabin, and they were in different sizes. So there was a men's and a hers. And any other time we've had slippers provided on the cruise, they're the same size. So I really appreciate it that they had a smaller slipper. These little touches made a difference.
There you go. So wrapping all that up now, we've got our pros and our cons out there. The big question is, I think there's two questions everybody wants to know the answer of. Mm-hmm. One is kind of, would we cruise Seabourn again? Mm-hmm. And did we get value for what we paid extra for? And is it worth paying the extra to do Seabourn versus other cruise lines that are, maybe a little less money for a similar experience?
Right.
So do you want to go first? Do you want me to?
Yeah, you can go first.
You want me to go first? Yeah. So I feel that... I don't feel that I would pay the extra for Seabourn. I really don't. As much as, here's what I think. When I break it down, you pay more for Seabourn. I think what you're paying for is the smaller ship, less people. You're also getting the type of people that just love cruising, that are passionate about travel. They're not worried about the belly flop competition. They're not worried about starting a fight in the buffet, right? So you're kind of choosing a clientele that want to be there for all the same reasons you want to be there if you're paying for the ultra luxury experience. I think that's what you're paying for. As much as I thought the food was great, I thought the entertainment was great. I felt that the little touches were really, really well done. The cabin was great. That I still, in my back of my head, I'm thinking, I paid extra for this. Did I get that little extra that I thought I was going to get from that, like, personal attention? I don't feel I quite got it. So I'm a little skeptical. Don't get me wrong. It was a great cruise. I think the service was wonderful. I thought a lot of the things were really good. And other cruises, you always get little pieces of this that are good entertainment or good food on another ship. This kind of had a lot of good stuff all around it. I'm not convinced I would pay the extra for it. But if I did, I know that I'd get a good experience. So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
So for me, I would sort of say, yeah, cost is always in the back of our mind when we're booking cruises. We booked this one as opposed to going on 2 cruises to sort of make it work for us. And so am I willing to give up a cruise to go on, 1 cruise as opposed to 2 Holland America, for instance, is the question that played in my head the whole time. And so I hemmed and hawed back and forth with it. I loved our suite. But I am quite happy on an interior cabin also too, because I enjoy what the cruise experience is outside of our cabin. So I've really struggled with whether I would pay the difference, and I think I would for special occasion is where I've sort of landed. So we did this as a 25-year anniversary cruise, special gift to each of us, and I thought it was worth it to have this sort of extra treat special thing. I would do it again, but probably it won't be like, so I'm not saying, oh, this is the only cruise we're ever going to cruise from now on. I do hope I get an opportunity to go on another Seabourn cruise, and one that has hot weather the whole time. I would really love to explore more time on their outdoor activities and their outdoor
Yep.
decks that we didn't get the opportunity.
Yeah.
So I do want to cruise them again, and I would cruise them again. Of course, the budget is always in play at this point in our life, and so that's the reality of cruising. But I definitely think that I would spend the same money going on a Seabourn cruise or the same money going on MSC Yacht Club, then I would pick Seabourn.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think we had the full Seabourn experience, only because we were in rougher weather. We didn't get a chance to explore that hole. They open up the aft of the ship, and there's toys and stuff you can do back there. A lot of the outside venues, we only had really one good day. There was a couple of days we were outside, but one good full day outside that we could enjoy the outdoor pool deck. So I don't think we had the full experience. Maybe if we had the full experience, like you said, in better weather, my opinion might be, yeah, it's worth that little bit extra. And I think if you're able to get a good price on Seabourn, it's kind of close to the price of another cruise line.
Right.
I think it's worth it. You're going to get value there, and you're going to get that small ship experience, which I think is kind of what we've been searching for, and we're going to continue to try to do with our channel, is show a lot of these smaller ships.
Yes.
But yeah, so all in all, good cruise, great service. I don't think you can kind of go wrong with Seabourn. You just got to know that's going to cost a little more to get all that extra.
Right.
But there is some value there. But yeah.
But if you want to go on a cruise ship to party and just have a blast, then that's not your cruise ship. It isn't. It's very chilled, relaxed, a little refinement, but not overly refined.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in saying that, though, there was music going every night. There's people always on the dance floor.
Absolutely.
It wasn't like people were falling asleep on this ship. Like we kind of thought maybe it would happen with like chamber music and like, oh my goodness, go to bed. But it was like popular music, people on the dance
Absolutely.
floor having a good time, just like
Sail away party out
Yeah.
of Manhattan. That was wonderful.
ABBA sail away party in Manhattan, like
Yeah.
just like you'd see on other ships.
Yeah,
So
it was great.
so it wasn't kind of the gray hair cruise that a lot of people maybe associate with Seabourn.
True.
It was still a fun cruise. In fact, we were not the youngest, which was a common question.
That's true.
That we were kind of middle of the crowd. I would say there's people
Yeah.
younger and older.
That's right.
So yeah, if you get a chance to try Seabourn, I definitely would say you're going to get some value. You're going to have a good cruise.
Yes.
But if you want to save the money and book, a couple other cruises instead, I think that's kind of our strategy. Is how do we play that out? Do we do more cruising for less, or we do top-notch cruising like we had on Seabourn?
Correct.
Anyways, be sure to check out our vlogs, because if you didn't get enough out of this, we're going to do day-by-day vlogs, and you'll be able to see what it's like actually around the ship, the meals we did, all the details you're going to find in our vlogs that are going to be coming out after this.
That's right.
So thanks for watching, everybody, and if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. We're always looking to help people out if they have any questions.
Yes, and please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done that. It helps us a lot.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, and take care.
Good night.
Bye-bye.